The Institute of World Affairs at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee presents International Focus, a weekly discussion of the people and events behind today's global headlines. Support provided by Milwaukee Public Television and the UWM Center for International Education. Now here's your host, Doug Savage.
Welcome to International Focus. Over the last few decades, an estimated 300 to 500,000 children in more than 24 countries have been abducted from their homes and forced to fight in armed conflicts. Forced to witness, endure, and commit horrendous acts of violence, these children are severed from the lives they've known and cast into a nightmarish world of abuse and violence. Those who survive face the daunting challenge of reintegrating into a society that often shuns them. Our guest today brings an insider's perspective to the issue. Shortly before her 15th birthday, Grace Akallo was abducted by members of the notorious Lord's Resistance Army in Uganda. After enduring 7 brutal months as a female child soldier, she managed to escape with 8 other captive children. She went on to complete high school and attend university in Uganda, eventually transferring to Gordon College in the United States. Today, she serves as Executive Director for United Africans for Women and Children Rights, an advocacy organization she founded in 2009. She's also author of Girl Soldier, a story of hope for northern Uganda's children. Well, Grace Akallo, welcome to International Focus.
Thank you very much.
Well, I'm wondering if you could start just by giving us some sense of the problem, or the scope of the problem of child soldiers around the world.
The use of child soldiers around the world is a big problem that we have today. Although in the past few years, the issue has really been known now, but before that, it was a silent crime that was being committed against children. And we have countries not just in Africa, because people forget when they say child soldiers, they look at Africa, that's where child soldiers are happening. But child soldiering is happening in all over the world. We have countries like Sri Lanka before, Burma, we have Syria now, that they were using children. Whenever there's war, children are involved in, they're used in conflict.
And what is the role that these children are forced to play? I mean, what kinds of things do children do once they're abducted?
There are a lot of things that children are forced to do. There are a lot of activities or jobs that they're given to do. Younger children are usually given luggage to carry, because I'm going to speak in terms of the LRA, because there are rebel groups who started in Uganda and moved into Sudan. So when they abduct the children, they give the younger ones, they give them luggage to carry, and they give them other work to do. But if you're old enough, then they start training you to become a child soldier, and they give you AK-47 actually to fight.
And why use children? You would think if you were trying to raise an army, you'd want adults. What is the rationale for the use of children?
Children are easy to manipulate. They're easy to brainwash. They're easy to, I usually try to compare them like a dog, a puppy. When you're bringing a puppy up, whatever you say is what the puppy is going to follow. So a child is, although it's a human being, that is supposed to have their own opinion, but when they're children, they're quick. They want to please the adults, and so the rebels or the paramilitaries, even governments, take children into their armies because it's easy to train and brainwash them.
And so let's talk a little bit about northern Uganda. What were the origins of the LRA?
The LRA started in 1986 when the current president came into power. And Uganda, since they got independence, had not really gotten peace, total peace. But when the current president came into power, there was a little bit peace in some other parts of the country. But northern Uganda never actually got peace, because when the current president came into power, he went to the north as if to revenge against the former president, because the former president came from northern Uganda. And so it created a lot of problems in northern Uganda. And then a lady called Alice Lakwena actually was the one who first started the Lord's Resistance Army. Then it wasn't called the Lord's Resistance Army, and it was called the Army of the Holy Spirit. So she started this army, and then she was defeated. And Joseph Kony followed her footsteps, because they're cousins. And since Joseph Kony started, Alice Lakwena did not abduct children. Alice Lakwena tried to convince people, adults, to join her. When Joseph Kony came, straight away he started abducting children in northern Uganda. And he started right from 1986 until today, not in northern Uganda, but until today, Joseph Kony still exists in the eastern part of Congo, abducting children. In northern Uganda alone, Joseph Kony is estimated that he abducted more than 66,000 children, and half of these children are girls. And so the magnitude of what he has done in northern Uganda, the generations that have been affected, it's going to take a long time for the part of the country to recover.
And you make note of the fact that many of the children abducted were girls. What is the experience of the girls versus the boys in this situation?
Just the fact that girls are girls, or women, in the nature of the way God has created them. Girls are forced to become child wives. Apart from being a child soldier, holding AK-47, going to battle, going to fight, they're also forced to become child soldiers, they're forced to become mothers, they're forced to become sex slaves. So it is, it's a double way what they're forced to do. And then when they manage to escape or manage to be rescued, they also tend to be rejected from their own community, because they have come back with the kids, unwanted kids, that's what they call them, unwanted kids, and they also come back with some of them sick. And in northern Uganda, or in Uganda, most of the land or property, women access them through men. So if a girl comes back and they cannot get married, basically they're outcast and they cannot feed their children, they cannot feed themselves, and instead they become sex slaves again.
So what is the ostensible goal of a paramilitary organization like the LRA? What are they trying to accomplish?
That I cannot really answer concretely, because each and every paramilitary has their own agenda. Like in northern Uganda, the LRA, basically, I don't think they had any agenda. For them, when Joseph Kony started in northern Uganda, he was telling people he wanted to overthrow the government so that he can come into power. But you cannot overthrow the government by abducting the very people that you're coming to rule, by killing the very people that you're coming to rule. 90% of the people were forced to go into internally displaced camp. Some people were mutilated, some people were killed, burnt in the camps, burnt in the houses. So if you really have agenda of coming to rule, who are you coming to rule then? I think it was just, it's just pure crime, pure evil that he was committing.
And give us a little sense of what it's like for the communities. I mean, you would think the community would, of course, want to protect its children. How is it that these organizations are able to commit these crimes?
When these kind of organizations start, they destabilize the community. They disarm the community. They completely make the community, dehumanize the community, and they don't have power. Like when the LRA came to my school, St. Mary's College at Boke, it was a Catholic school, and the sisters were really protecting us. Not that they were leaving us to, there was a wall, there was a fence, everything was there. But when the LRA come, the fear that they put into the people's heart, people just run away. Because either you're going to be killed, or you're going to be abducted, or you're going to be mutilated. And when they're abducting children, it's not that they're just going to take a child. This child is going to be forced to kill their own parents. This child is forced, or a girl is forced to sleep with the father. This child is forced to mutilate their own parents in front of them, or kill the community around them. So the fear that they put into the hearts of the people, the hearts of the community, makes it very difficult for the community even to protect their own children.
So what are the children told when they're abducted? I mean, what are their abductors telling them the reason behind it all is?
They don't really tell them the reason much about what they're doing. All Joseph Kony, the leader of the Lord's Resistance Army, would say that he wants to take over the government. But the reason why children stay is because of fear. Because from the very first time you're abducted, as I told you, they're forced to kill their own parents. Along the way, you're beaten properly, and they do some rituals on the child, and they tell the child that if they try even to think to escape, the Lord's Resistance Army, the leader, already knows it, so you'll be killed. And it's not just a threat. You see people being killed in front of you, and you're told because they were thinking of escape, and you are the one forced to kill the same people. So it's not that they believe in what the LRA or the paramilitaries, some of the paramilitaries really are fighting for, but it's just because of the fear. Some of the children stay and even grow up in this kind of military groups.
And what is the likelihood that all of that notwithstanding, there is still an interest in escape? I mean, are children just giving themselves up and losing hope, or I mean, people like you were able to somehow find a way out? How does that happen?
I don't think they give up if a child has been abducted, but also bear in mind that there are different ways that children become child soldiers. In my case, and most of the children in northern Uganda, it was abduction. If you go to some other countries, children join armed conflict, armed groups, because of the pressures that they've been put to, or they've been lured by the groups, or coerced, or their families have been threatened, or even the families themselves don't treat the children well, and they tend to join. But in the case of abduction, I didn't find anybody, any child who said he didn't want to escape. But you don't talk because you don't trust anybody. Even if we were abducted in the same place, even if we have been in the same class, I would not trust you with my whatever is in my mind, because if I tell you, somebody might hear it and I might be killed, and even the person that I told the information might be killed. So at all times, you don't even say your mind. But to me, every time I was there, I was thinking of escape. I tried 3 times in Uganda and it didn't work. Then in Sudan, that's when I escaped.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about responses to this situation when we come back, but first we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with more International Focus.
The Institute of World Affairs presents our community with a range of public programs relating to global issues, U.S. foreign policy, and the world economy. For more information about the Institute of World Affairs, call 414-229-3220 or visit our website at www.iwa.uwm.edu.
Welcome back to International Focus. We're talking with Grace Akallo about children in armed conflict. Well, we've been talking a lot about northern Uganda and specifically the Lord's Resistance Army. And I'd like to talk a little bit about sort of the responses to this very difficult problem of children in armed conflict. And one of the very apparent responses in this country last year was the Kony 2012 attempt at sort of bringing some publicity and light to this problem. And there have been a number of criticisms of that effort, in which there's, for viewers who are unfamiliar, there was, of course, this viral video that talked about what Joseph Kony was doing. And I'd like to mention three of the prominent criticisms of that and just get your response. First of all, that it wasn't really an accurate portrayal of the current situation.
It's true that some of the facts that were in the video were not portraying the current situation in northern Uganda, but it was portraying the current situation in Congo, but they did not say that in the video. Because we cannot ignore the fact that what was happening in Uganda is still happening in Sudan. The LRA is still abducting children. They're still killing people in the eastern part of Congo. So even if it's not happening in Uganda, it's still happening in Congo. I hope they had updated it and said, okay, this is where it is right now. But the video was not portraying that. I guess that's why there was criticism.
Another criticism was that it gave the sense that the people in the impacted countries were essentially helpless, and it needed sort of intervention by outsiders to help solve the problem.
Listen, the problem of the LRA, if really the insiders were able to solve, the LRA had been there for more than, now in Congo they're coming to almost 30 years. 26 to 30 years now is coming to it. And there have been effort from locally, and it's not that the people are helpless, but if you are in the situation, sometimes you need help from outside. And the way they criticized the video, some of the people did not see the first video. There was a first video called Invisible Children. And that's where they got those clips and put it in the viral video. But I always tell people, go back and look at the ones that they did before that. I think it was out of desperation because there was nobody listening they wanted to get attention of the people about the situation in these countries. And I think anyone who really wanted to get involved in the situation should go back and see the Invisible Children video that documented northern Uganda. I don't think it really portrayed that the people there are helpless. It just needed that help to help boost the inside people to stop this kind of crime.
And to what extent is someone like Joseph Kony a symptom rather than the core of the problem? I mean, would capturing him and bringing him to justice address sort of the root causes of what's going on?
Not necessarily. Joseph Kony is the root cause of all the problems that we have in some countries in Africa or any other country, especially corruption and division and poverty and all these problems. But at this point, capturing Kony might end Kony himself, but not necessarily maybe other groups will come up because of the problems we already have.
So what are those drivers of that crisis? I mean, how is it that these groups form? I mean, what is the root cause then?
It depends on the political situation. Like in Uganda, as I told you, there was no peace, although in the western part of the country, there was like silent of gunshots and stuff, and people, it was developing. But the northern part of the country where Joseph Kony formed, there was nothing going on. When the government came into power, the current president came into power, he sent his soldiers to the north, and he created a situation. And now it has created a chain of situations that we have created child soldiers, children who have been trained to to survive by gun, children who have been trained to survive by violence. And so even when we capture Connie, these children or these young adults now need to be retrained to become a contributing member of the society, a good contributing member of the society.
And let's talk a little bit, if we could, about that process. I mean, when a child or a young person is now out of that situation and out of the conflict itself, what are his or her primary needs to try to reintegrate back into society?
First is the psychological services that they need, because you've been tortured, you've been brainwashed, you've been taught to think that everybody who is around you is an enemy. And so they need psychological services to be able to reintegrate into the community. At the same time, they need resources or skill training or something that they can think of as, I still have a future, not just psychological services and then go home and reintegrate into the community, but you have nothing to do. So the child ends up saying, okay, I don't have anything to lose, I don't have anything to do, I don't have a future, can easily go back. So we need to give them resources in order to, or resources train them and give them a second chance to better their lives and also contribute to their own communities.
And what is the response of those communities typically? I mean, is it easy? Were they to have those skills to get back into a more normal life?
I think they are. Maybe I'm not the best example, but yes, you can see I got a chance. I was given a chance, and somebody looked at me and said, you can still go back to school, you can still do this, you can still have a future. And here I am today, and I'm not the only one. There are other girls and boys who've been abducted, some of them even 10 years. And I like to quote, give example of my friends. Some of them, one of them is finishing college and is going to be a doctor. Another is going to be a lawyer. The other is a social worker. So basically they have been given a chance to go to school or to have skills that can help them and help their children and help their own people. And that makes it's not just about having those skills and being able to survive or in the community, but also it gives a self-esteem that you're still wanted, you're still needed, you're still a valuable person in where you live.
And so one of the skills that you developed after your escape was to become an advocate. So tell us a little bit about your work now.
My becoming advocate, I don't know whether I should call it skills, but mine was out of desperation. Some of it was out of desperation, some of it out of guilt, because when I escaped, I'd left most of my friends in captivity. I'd left children, lots of children in captivity, even some of them were as young as 7 years old. And I felt, how come that I survived and these people have not survived? And I couldn't speak much when I was in Uganda because I was still scared. And then when I came to this country and I was coming to school, I came with two goals. One, to advocate to anybody who can hear that, please rescue my friends and rescue the children who've been abducted by the LRA and stop the atrocities that have been committed. And so I started advocating, and I would speak to anybody who cared to listen. And I didn't care whether they're going to do anything to stop it or not, but at least I would have spoken. And out of that, not just me doing the advocacy, but the other groups like World Vision, including the Invisible Children, their first documentary that came out was actually a relief to me, because people could see what was going on at that time in northern Uganda. So I started advocacy with them, and later on I started United Africans for Women and Children's Rights to advocate for the rights of the girls and the women in armed conflict, because most of the time people mistake that if you say child soldier, then it automatically means a boy with the AK-47 with red eyes, and but they don't forget that most of these child soldiers are also girls. So the organization is advocacy, but also providing a means for them to get into normal life. And I love education very much, because that's what gave me a chance to have a different life, a different, build my own community around me. So education is part of it, sending the children to school, sending the mothers who have been abused in captivity and have children to school or training skills so that they can be able to survive. And the other, providing the resources for them to have health services.
Well, I'm sure people would like to learn more. Is there a website they could go to for your organization?
Yes, they can go to www.africanwomenrights.org.
Very good. Grace Akallo, thank you very much for being with us. To our viewers, we'll see you next time on International Focus.
For information about the Institute of World Affairs and its many programs, or to become a member of the Institute, call 414-229-3220 or visit us at our website,